India's voice matters in the world, whether it is Ukraine or whether it is the crisis right now in Gaza or the Houthi attacks. Yesterday night, the US and UK forces attacked the Houthi rebel positions in South Yemen. That includes drones, missiles, radar sites, surveillance sites. So it's a critical mission, and it comes at a time when actually entire Middle East is actually flaring up. Yesterday, the Iranians actually commandeered a tanker, St. Nicholas, of the Gulf of Oman. The position that India takes matters. The Indian Navy is all over the Arabian Sea, right from Bab al Mandab all the way up to our western coast. Any flare up in this area is going to hit not only India hard, but hit the global economy.
Hi, you're watching Hindustan Times, and I'm Aditi Prasad, and with me is the paper's executive editor, Shishir Gupta. Two big geopolitical news points today, and we're going to be picking both of them up in point blank. One is Jaishankar's visit to Iran, and the second is Maldives President Muizzu's return to Mali amid the furor with India. Now, Shishir, straight off the bat, I want to talk to you about the bigger news point first, which is Jaishankar's visit to Iran. Now, he's going to go there in a couple of days. How much does this visit to Iran have to do with Houthis attacking ships off India's coast?
Namaskar. Aditi, the visit of External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar is very critical as far as the current crisis in the Middle East goes. What is happening is that if you look at the build-up to the entire visit, first of all, the possibility is that the External Affairs Minister is visiting Iran for a brief visit on coming Sunday. Second thing is that he undertakes this visit or mission, so to speak, after he spoke to the US Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, last night. Third thing is that he was there over the year end in Russia, where he understood the Russian perspective of the Middle East crisis unfolding. Fourth thing is that yesterday night, the US and UK forces attacked the Houthi rebel positions in South Yemen. That includes drones, missiles, radar sites, surveillance sites. So it's a critical mission, and it comes at a time when actually entire Middle East is actually flaring up. There is this war of Israel on Hamas in Gaza. Then there are these Houthi missile and drone attacks on the commercial shipping in Red Sea, North Arabian Sea, Gulf of Aden, and even close to the Indian coast. And then yesterday, the Iranians actually commandeered a tanker, St. Nicholas, off the Gulf of Oman. So the situation is flared up. The visit is a key visit, and it's one of the most important things because the position that India takes matters.
Okay, you're saying it's a very important visit. What exactly? You told us the context of the visit. You set us the context. But if you could make our viewers understand, what is it that Jaishankar hopes to achieve out of this visit to Iran? And it's a very sudden one. It's like just on the spur of the moment, it seems like a visit which has just been planned.
So there are a couple of points in this. Number one is the Israel war on Gaza after the Hamas terrorist attacks in South Israel on October 7. Now, you must understand that Iran is the key player behind Hamas, behind Hezbollah in Lebanon, behind Houthis, behind Kata'ib Hezbollah in Iraq, and Iran actually is the sheer shoulder of Islam. And Iran has been actually backing up all these groups, the so-called axis of resistance, against Israel for all this while. The Indian context in this is that India is very clear that while it is supportive of the Palestinian cause, it does not any way justify the October 7 massacre. India is very clear. It wants a two-state solution, and it wants the war that is currently happening not to flare up as to consume the entire Middle East. First. Second thing is the Houthi attacks on commercial shipping. Now, the Houthi militia, it's a Shia militia, it's a militia which is backed up by Iran. Now, this militia has been using kamikaze drones, it has been using missiles, it has been using all sorts of weaponry against commercial shipping, which is flying through Red Sea near the choke point called Bab al-Mandab, off the Gulf of Aden, and even in Arabian Sea. You must remember that on December 23rd, it was Iranian Shadab 136 loitering ammunition that targeted a tanker MV Camp Plateau off the coast of Dwarka. So the Indian concern is that one is that the war be contained and finished off as soon as possible. Two, the Houthi attacks must be stopped, because this is actually a hit at the global economy, taking the rules of Israel.
What about the attack by the Houthis near the Indian coast, which happened a week ago? And that attack, how much of that is that a cause for particular concern for India?
Absolutely, it is it's a matter of very serious concern, because the attack on MV Camp Plateau took place at 210 nautical miles off the coast of Dwarka. And the missile that was used was actually a loitering ammunition, or what is called a kamikaze drone, which has been being supplied by Iranians. Now, we are not very clear whether it was Iran which was involved or Houthis it was involved, but this particular drone is a long-range drone. It does about something like 350 nautical miles, and it struck a ship close to the Indian coast. So it is a matter of very serious concern, because it affects the maritime security of India. And that is why India is very keen to address this issue, and it wants to take it up with Iran. Now, there are other issues also with Iran which India will take up, which External Affairs Minister Jaishankar will take up. For instance, like the North-South corridor, which is a key corridor that starts from Chabahar port, where India is invested in. And this goes via Bandar Abbas all the way to Europe. The second thing that he intends to do is sort of address these issues so that the turmoil in Middle East is contained. India is very focused when it comes to all this, and that is why it has deployed no less than 10 warships. I say that 10 warships means 5 destroyers, nearly 4 frigates, and number of missile boats in the region to ensure that the sea lanes of communication are protected.
These ships and destroyers that India has deployed, where exactly are these deployed? For the sake of our viewers, if you could elaborate a little.
Okay, so my understanding is that you have INS Kochi, INS Kolkata near the Gulf of Aden. You have INS Chennai, INS Mormugao in Central Arabian Sea. You have INS Vishakhapatnam, and you have a frigate. In all probability, if I'm not mistaken, you have a frigate near off the coast of Oman. You have a couple of frigates, that is Talwar and Tarkash, which are there, plus a tanker has been deployed. So the Indian Navy is all over the Arabian Sea, right from Bab al-Mandab all the way up to our western coast, basically to protect trade, protect oil tankers from not only the Houthi attacks, but also from the Somalian pirates. It's a navy which has been very proactive, and it recently actually staved off a hijacking attempt by the Somalian pirates. So so India has been very actively deployed.
So now these deployments are in association with partners in the US and the UK. How is this playing out?
See, India is a country that believes in strategic autonomy. India is not part of the Operation Prosperity Guardian. India is not taking any command or giving up any control to these places, but India is operating on its own. Because you must understand, Arabian Sea, be it Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal or Indian Ocean, this is India's backyard. It has been there for civilizations. So that is why it is doing its best to protect for all the littoral states and for all the states which are bordering the Arabian Sea.
What are the stakes for India if the Middle East blows up? When I say blows up, I mean more than it already is flaring up.
India has huge stakes in the Middle East. First of all, there is a huge Indian diaspora in the Middle East, a very productive diaspora in the Middle East. India is a firm stakeholder in the Middle East economic corridor that involves India, Saudi Arabia, UAE. So, India is one of the countries which has got very key allies in UAE and Saudi Arabia. India is also one of the major food suppliers to this area. And as well as the basic point is that the Indian oil and energy requirements come from the Middle East. Hence, any flare-up in this area is going to hit not only India hard, but hit the global economy. Let me tell you, Aditi, no less than $1 trillion worth of trade passes through through Suez Canal. And this trade goes not only to Europe, but it goes to Southeast Asia via Malacca and to North Asia. So any hit on the sea lanes of communication means that the prices will go up, the global economy will get scuttled. That is why it is very important to contain the Gaza war and to ensure that the non-state players like Hezbollah, Kataib Hezbollah, Houthis do not add up to the mess.
All right, we all know that Iran is the key factor which is propping up not just the Houthis but also Hamas, Hezbollah, the Kataib Hezbollah, all these other players in the region, the so-called axis of resistance against Israel that Iran has propped up. Jaishankar going and talking to Iran, and Jaishankar, of course, India's position has been that it supports the two-state solution of the, to end the Israel-Palestine conflict, but is opposed to the use of terrorism for political objectives, indicating towards the October 7th attack by Hamas inside Israel. Now, having said that, how much is Iran going to listen to India, given the fact that India has backed Israel initially, especially after the October 7th attack?
The Indian position actually is very clear. It has not backed Israel. It has opposed terrorism. It has opposed the massacre. It is with the Palestinian cause as far as the two-state solution is concerned. And let me tell you one thing very clearly, Aditi. India's voice matters in the world, whether it is Ukraine or whether it is the crisis right now in Gaza or the Houthi attacks. Because India not only talks but delivers. No other country has sent 10 warships into the area, barring US. So its commitment to global peace and security is unparalleled currently. Now the point is, India also has a friend in Iran. Iran understands that India has always been on its side on all the things that really matter. So the point in this is it's going to be a very candid conversation where Iran will have its own point against Israel, against US, against everybody else. But India will also get to state the position and also listen to what the Iranians have to say to justify their position. So it is going to be an important conversation because India is one of the very few countries with which Iran
that has sides with both sides.
Absolutely, very, very candidly, very bluntly, and both sides need to understand each other's positions.
All right, let me circle back to the other big news point today, which is Muizzu and his return to Mali after the entire furor with India. Now, some 20 agreements the Maldivian president signed with China. How do you see this playing out? The increasing closeness to China, which was anyway his campaign slogan, and therefore he's come into power and he's affected it, and increasing distancing or distance from India.
Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee once said that you can always choose your friends but not your neighbors. If you read the joint communique that has been signed between the Chinese and the Maldives during the 4-day visit of President Mohammad Muizzu, it is quite evident that India actually has lost a friend for at least next 5 years. If you look at the joint statement and if you look at the 20 MOUs that have been signed, it is very evident and it is very clear that Muizzu has decided to take the China way. Even the language that is used in the joint communique is a classical brief that normally the Chinese prepared when a foreign dignitary comes to Beijing. Words like one China policy, words like Taiwan being integral part of China, words like BRI, words like Global Security Initiative, words like Global Development Initiative, all those words of Chinese vocabulary or Chinese diplomatic jargon to define their hegemony over Asia are written in the joint communique. I don't think so there is much more to say, except that India will have to wait its while to see President Mohammad Muizzu go, because he has definitely decided that his path is towards Beijing, not towards New Delhi.
But having said that, and while I completely agree with you, this man, Muizzu, he came into power on an India out campaign. He wants to get closer to China. He is getting closer to China, but the fact also remains that, I remember in the past, sometime I'm forgetting which year, I think it was 2015, I think, or when India had to extend a line of credit to get Maldives out of its debt with China. Now, having said that, the experiences of, let's say, Sri Lanka, closeness with China, falling into that debt trap, he is going to be repeating the same for Maldives again.
So let me make a prediction. Right now, Maldives needs to pay $1 billion, which is nearly 1/5 of its GDP, to private lenders in 2026. Mark my words, there is no way that Mali can actually pay that $1 billion. So, like Sri Lanka, Mali will also default. And like Sri Lanka, China will not come to its aid. So, right now, Mali has to give in this year about $100 million to India, which I think it should. But there is a larger looming economic and debt crisis ahead of Mali. Now, President Muizzu thinks that China will come to its aid. China will use its BRI to so-called help Mali to develop infrastructure. But Chinese Exim banks, they operate in a non-transparent environment where public will never get to know what kind of interest Mali government is paying and what are the collateral that are attached to the loan that will be given. It is not going to be aid. It is going to be a high interest loan.
Which Sri Lanka has found out to its disadvantage, and Pakistan is perhaps finding out right now, even as we speak. But thank you so much, Shishir, for giving us that perspective. Thank you, viewers, for watching this broadcast. We will keep coming back to you with interesting facets of, geopolitical insights that Shishir keeps giving us from time to time on Point Blank.